Hello everybody, how we all doing? Welcome back to the channel Off the Underside. We've got a very exciting guest tonight, a man who I've been chatting to for quite a while now, been admiring his stuff on YouTube, and he's very active on Twitter, or X as it's called now, and other kind of platforms and that. And it's Barry from Let's Talk Football Careers. Barry boy, how you doing, mate?
I'm great, Jamie. Thanks for inviting me on, man.
No bother, mate. Like I say, man, it's been a while in the making this, because back when we first started doing like your kind of guests and stuff like that, I was searching YouTube to see other kind of guests, the guests that we were having on, to see what other kind of interviews they've been doing and stuff. So I came across your channel, mate, because you'd obviously interviewed a few of the guys that we've had on and stuff, and it was just brilliant. It was actually excellent to watch, because you could you get a wee bit of knowledge for that and stuff as well. So aye, mate, and ever since then been watching all your stuff, and you've been going from strength to strength. Barry's interviewed guys like Jaap Stam, John Barnes, Matt Le Tissier, absolute top class names, man, and obviously loads of people for Scottish football as well. So aye, mate, let's just get straight into it, Barry. What made you start the podcast, mate, and when did it start?
It started October 2024 as an idea with a few beers in my kitchen, pretty much. I knew I wasn't steaming it, but I sent out, I had a wee bit Dutch courage, sent out a few messages just via Instagram to loads of players. Kind of forgot about it. Woke up the next morning, switched my phone on. There's, who was it first? It was Gregory Vignal had messaged me and shot Arveladze, and I was like, come on, let's just get a go. So my first two guests was a Frenchman and a Georgian, so I just threw myself right in at the deep end. And I'm just it's been brilliant for their own, love it.
Yeah. And it was always just a plan for the interviews all the time and stuff like that, or was it something that just came, naturally to you?
I'd watched a few Rangers podcasts, and there was one, the Rabble. I'd watched that. And they invited me to come on and do a wee bit. He says, if you want to do a wee bit of testing it, he says, you could just really come on and do a few shows that only the members see. He says, and that'll give a wee bit of confidence on the camera. Because as you'll be aware yourself, it takes a good few before the twitches go and all that, eh? Mm-hmm. So I done a wee tester on that, and then I just thought, you know what, this isn't what I want to be doing. As much as I love Rangers, I love Scottish football, I love talking with ex-football players, getting their stories out there, and it's all documented for my future generations as well, to be able to say, there's your granddad, dad, whatever, watching, talking with Peter Shilton, etc. It's yes, I love it.
Crazy, man. And obviously, like I said, some of the names you've had on, mate, I mean, is that just through Instagram, or is that through other platforms and stuff like that?
A lot of it I've used Facebook, Instagram, X, as you mentioned, and a lot of it is building up contacts as well. If you after about maybe 10 podcasts, you start noticing, right, I'm starting to be right about, I'm not in it to chuck out crazy stories to get football players in scandal and papers and all that. You start building your reputation, and then folk will recommend you. Like I got Marco Negri through Scott Nisbet recommending him, and that okay. And Scott Nisbet came through reaching out to Alistair Aird, who wrote his book. And it's just doing wee things like that. It's just sort of the old cliche, if you didn't ask, you did get in, and just putting yourself out there. Well, like you say, it's just went from strength to strength. My third podcast was Billy Davies. I got Billy Davies through a mate that runs the Dunfermline ex-players community, setup that they've got there. He says, I can put you in touch with Billy Davies. Spoke to his agent. I was like, right. He says, 2 days before that, I thought it was on the computer. 2 days before it, he says, right, I'll meet you in Oswald's bar then, and that'll be great. I'm like, what? So contacted a mate that does a printing service, was like, look, you need to wire me up a podcast t-shirt like that. Went through, absolutely surreal. We went in, there was about 60 folk there. I'm winging it with my laptop, and I've got wee business cards made up and that. Billy Davies walks in straight up to me. All right, Barry, how's it going? I'm like, he's like, you want a pint? I'm like, this is mental. And ever since then, I've just really embraced it. It's been brilliant, man.
Exactly, mate. We can relate to that as well. You know what I mean? Obviously, like you're talking about the contacts thing. We spoke to Dave McKinnon, who obviously is a really good player for Rangers, captain Rangers and stuff like that. Dave's such a nice guy. After we spoke to Dave, he put us in contact with Murdo McLeod. You know what I mean? And that's because that's his cousin and stuff. And as you say, when you build up these contacts and these guys can get you stuff, and then when you were talking there about Billy Davies, mate, that reminded me when we went to see Tam Cowan at BBC Studios. You know what I mean? You're just you ask the guy the question, where you can win a podcast, and it's amazing when they turn around and go, aye, but you come to me and we'll go and do it live, and it's incredible, mate. But I mean, you've done that, as you said, that was one of your early interviews with Billy Davis and stuff. So how do you find that, you know, the difference between that? Because you've done it a few times now, mate, where you've been face to face. I know you've done it with Brad Spencer, the Falkirk player.
Well, aye. And another thing,
You've done it.
what's inspired me to do this, right, is I love talking with guys like yourself. Scottish football, right? I'm not caring what anybody says. It's fantastic. It's got everything in it that makes it. The comedy, the scat, everything that comes with it is mental. You see all the VAR decisions and that. But the difference with doing sort of face to face as opposed to doing it, you know, over a computer, it's chalk and cheese. You can see your audience. You're aware of where the camera is and how you turn and everything. It takes a lot of getting used to, like you.
We've not kind of really done that yet, you know, in front of people or anything like that. Obviously, like I say, Tam Cowan, but that was in a wee room and stuff. We've never actually done it in front of kind of people and stuff. I know that you've done that, mate, but what's the plans going forward, though? Is it just to keep contacting people and, you know, keep getting stories out there and stuff, keep talking to people?
Aye, eventually. I mean, I'm not in it for any money. I've had a wee bit of sponsorship that's helped me with things like that, and I've helped them with promoting their companies and things. But the plan is just to keep firing them out there. The views are important, obviously, because you want people to watch it. It encourages you to know you're doing well in that. But really, and for as long as I keep enjoying it, I would love to be able to say I'll do this full time and one of the big companies contact me, but I'm not naive enough. It might happen, it might not. I'm not looking for that, but I'd love to do it as a career. But generally, no, it's a hobby. It's away from my family life a wee bit. Just gives me a wee bit of time to switch off, and it's brilliant, man.
Excellent, mate. A couple of my questions in a second. Let's get to a few comments. Right, so what we're talking about today, what we're talking about is we've got Barry on here from Let's Talk Football Careers. Barry's talking about his podcast, and then we'll be talking a wee bit about Rangers and this season as well, and then we'll be getting Barry's 11 Scottish football Rangers players, from his era, which I'm really looking forward to because there's quite a lot to choose from. Ryan Dunbar's in the chat. How you doing, Ryan? Ryan says, "Oh, fuck you, let that reprobate in." Love you really, Barry boy, he says.
I'm glad you're keeping better as well, Ryan. I know you've had that.
It's good to hear that he's doing well, man. He was in hospital for a wee while, Ryan, but he's good now. The Brett Ormerod pod and Ian Holloway pod is brilliant. I've not watched the Ian Holloway one yet, but I've watched the Brett Ormerod and it was brilliant. Every one I've watched, mate, you know, what I really like about the way your style is you let the guy speak, you know. There's too many podcasts out there, mate, where there's too many people interrupting, and basically you need to let the guy, so the conversation can flow, you need to let the guy talk, and you're brilliant at doing that, mate. Is that a conscious thing that you decided to do?
It's something that I've got the best critic, right? My brother-in-law is fantastic. We'll watch back, once it's all edited, we'll watch back and he'll give me feedback on every single one. And there's every podcast, I'm learning something all the time, and I always try and take that through my work life and doing that. I always try and learn all the time. So I'm conscious of it, but at the same time, you just kind of fall into it in the way people are there to listen to the guest, not listen to me. I'm just the host, and that's something you train yourself. This is why I'm finding this quite bizarre, because you're leading the conversation, whereas it takes a bit of time getting used to it.
I know, mate. I've been on a few podcasts and all, man, and you're kind of like, this is a bit weird, but you'll get used to that as well, mate. I'm sure there's many other podcasts you'll be on soon. But see, talking about guests and stuff, is there any dream guests that you're planning to talk to one day that you'd love to speak to?
I hit the post with Paul Gascoigne just recently. I was so close to getting him, just making contacts. It was actually Peter Beards I was speaking to through him, and we nearly had it set up. Back to it at the last minute, but I've always wanted to sit down with Ali McCoist. He was my hero when I was growing up. But again, it's difficult. He's tied up to a lot of things, and he's going to get requests all the time. And just keep riding it out and really just see what happens. If you can get good guests like that, it's enjoyable. But even the older guests I speak to, I spoke to Jim McCallagher last night, and 79-year-old, and the connections that these guys have made, played with Pele, played alongside Bobby Moore, made connections with Billy Bremner when he was 15-year-old. Absolutely amazing, eh? Brilliant, love it.
I know, mate, and that's the great thing about that. You're talking to these guys and you don't realise half of the stuff that they've actually done. You know what I mean? And then you're like, wow, that was just amazing. I mean, we've done that as well. I mean, some stories I can think of, we spoke to Graham Ricks, and Graham Ricks has played in 3 World Cups for England and stuff like that. He's won FA Cups for Arsenal, and he's told us a story about how, one of the World Cups he wasn't going to go because he was sitting on the bench, and then a player got injured at half time, in the last kind of qualifier, and Graham came on and he was amazing and stuff, and you're like, fucking, that's just unbelievable, these kind of stories, guys, from going at Wembley. And changes the game and that, you know what I mean, mate? I mean, you must have heard some amazing stories, since doing this.
Aye. I mean, the one thing I will say, speaking with all the guests and the older generation, you can see it yourself, but see how much football's changed. They're in it for I don't want to say they're in it for the money, because the money comes with their talent, but at the same time, the older generation were just wanting to play football all the time, and all the royalties came with it, and how the game's changed, it's mad. But what was my question? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, sorry.
No, just like all the stories I've heard and stuff like that.
I've been absolutely mental. I mean, Brett Ormerod telling the story that Brian was talking about the interview. He was telling the story about Gordon Strachan, and he also told us a story about Ian Holloway. And the two, they're just mental. Some of the stories that you would never be able to tap into until you actually ask the question. And Alex Ace, man, some of throw me off the top of my head, but some of the stories are mental. David Robertson was talking about his time in India with me, and he was saying that 2 or 3 days before COVID, and the noise was getting told there might be COVID, there might be a big worldwide flu coming. He says to his wife, Danny, it's all just hype. He says, come over to India, he says, and we'll stay in the hotel for a few days and that, he says, or a week, he says, and you'll be back home again. She got out there, his wife got out there, 5 hours, whole place went into lockdown. He was stuck in the hotel room, him and his wife, literally with Netflix for something like 3 months, he says, and he says, she's forgave me, he says, but that's the kind of stuff that he says she just didn't hear about it. He says it was hellish. He says he was telling me that he never got down the road on the bus when Rangers won 9 in a row because he was due to sign for Leeds. I says, was that your biggest regret? He says, no, biggest regret was the wife back in India. He says, I've still not heard the end of it.
Brilliant. One thing I've noticed in this podcast, Barry, and it's got to be loads of things you've noticed as well, mate, but is, every single guest we've had on, mate, they've all had some sort of adversity over the years, whether that be injury or, a manager no fancying them or stuff like that. I mean, have you noticed that, mate? Obviously, talking to all these guys, that loads of these guys, like, you're too short or you can't play, you're not quick enough or whatever, and for some reason, mate, these guys that we speak to, man, they all just kind of ignore it and just move on, and they end up becoming a success.
Aye, and that's again going back to when it was different times. They were so much more tougher. They were resilient. They were getting told, like you say, our school teachers and that, you'll never make it as a football player. But whereas you do that now, they could never get away with doing that now. They'd be putting claims in against the teacher saying you can't neg my child out and everything like that. But these guys are all tough. They all just wanted to play. Mentioning David Robertson again, he said that. He says, I was actually scared to say I was injured. He says, because I'd lose my place in the team. He says, nowadays, the sports scientist wouldn't let me play. It's bizarre, eh? But every one of them, and don't get me wrong, it's good too, because a lot of these players have got things they want to promote as well. They've got books. You've got Peter Shilton and his wife I spoke to. They want to advocate, the gambling issues that people suffer with. I've spoke with people with mental health. I've spoke to Klaus Lundig, and it's great giving them a wee platform as well to use us, and it's amazing, man.
Yeah, definitely. Here's a question, mate, that I don't like being asked, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's a tough question, but I can understand why people ask it, so I'm going to ask it. What has there been a particular guest, mate, that you can say, that's top tier?
Aye. Jaap Stam was amazing. Just sitting there, comes on, Jaap Stam, bantering away and that. Absolutely amazing. But I think since Peter Shilton, that was when I lost the nerves. Peter Shilton was only about my 8th guest, and it was like boom, straight in, sitting with Peter and his wife Steph. But after I interviewed Peter Shilton, that was when I lost the fear. But the level of guests, sitting with Matt Le Tissier and things like that, and you get messages of like Matt Le Tissier, I'm like, it's so bizarre, but they're only human. They're just decent. The majority of them are decent.
That's just crazy, mate. Growing up watching these guys and stuff, and you end up sitting down and have a conversation with them.
Sitting with Terry Butcher the other day, and I'm like, I'm watching you for the stands. I watched you at England, captain in England, and you're willing to give me half an hour of your time. It's like.
That is amazing, mate. It's brilliant to see, man. But can you run me a wee bit through your process, mate, or when you speak to people? Because what I've noticed is your attention to details class, mate. You've kind of got a process. We started off with kind of a process, right, we'll go through each club and stuff like that. I preferred as we went on to kind of like, all right, have kind of a couple of bullet points and stuff. But, you know, I found it easier to kind of just kind of take it as it comes. But as long as you know what kind of their path is, what you're great at doing, mate, is your actual attention to detail. You know, you kind of go through everything. You bring up stuff that I find in quite a lot of your interviews, guys will go, oh, like surprised you knew that kind of thing. Like, well done, you know what I mean? You've done your research and stuff. So what's your process of doing that, mate?
So what I do is I write down a summary. I'll write down, like, say, I'll take Jim McCallum that I spoke to. So I'll write down ex-Scotland and player for, and I'll name after 6 or 8 teams that he played with. I'll put down a couple of his honours, and I'll hear that as a summary. So as soon as I introduce it, hi there, welcome to Let's Talk Football Careers. I'm sat here today with, and I read out the summary. But then what I do for their own is I'll write down in order. I'll go into Wikipedia and I'll write down in order. Say again, McCallum played with Leeds for, I'm just chucking random dates here, but 73 to 75. So I'd write down 73 to 75, next team that he moved to, and put it all down like that until it comes to retirement. And then I'll do the same with the coaching. And then just over a couple of days, I'll just type in, like, right, Leeds team 1973, and there it'll come up. Billy Bremner was there, so Billy Bremner, I'll ask him about him. And bullet points for now it's bullet points. Before it used to be like an 8-page novel on everything that happened in every season, but it was taking about 2 hours to talk to them. So right. I've worked out about an hour maximum's plenty for them, and you can get everything fired in. And like you say, when you've got all your stats, and I mentioned to Jimmy last night, I says, do you know who's the player that you played the most games with? That was as simple as typing into Chat GPT or whatever it is. Who did Jim McCallum play the most games with? Came up with a guy's name, all due respect, on it way before my time, never even knew who it was. Put that to Jim, and he's like, that's fantastic. You gain the respect because you've made a wee bit of an effort, I know what I say. And as soon as you gain the respect, that's when you start relaxing and you can talk away like this.
Oh, definitely, mate. I totally agree with that, man. As you just talk to them like human beings, and, you know, don't show them any disrespect, but also on the other hand, don't show them too much respect where they're thinking, oh, this is just some wee dafty here that's kind of, you know, just what, you know, you just be professional in that as well, mate. But I mean, I think what you've done, mate, you've got it done to a team, man, and I wouldn't change too much about what you're doing, man. I think you've got it class.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thanks very much.
Cheers. No bother, mate, no bother. But aye, mate, that's the podcast bit of this bit over. Now we're going to go into and talk a wee bit about this season, the roller coaster that has been this season. First of all, feel like a Scottish football point of view, I know you mentioned it earlier, mate. How have you found this? It's been, like I say, an absolute roller coaster in it, a season.
Mad, it really is. As this season's everything Scottish football summed up about. I've tapped into the Championship quite a lot as well, interviewing guys that you've interviewed, Doug Emery and Ian Murray and such like it. And I've watched that league, and the Championship is just the exact same without VAR, but it's just as mental. I mean, fair play to Hearts, they're absolutely amazing. There's 3 issues here. I think personally, Rangers have got the better squad. That's a biased point of view, but I don't think they've got the right mentality. I think Celtic's got the mentality to win it. Hearts have got the most consistency, but have they got the bottle to carry it on when it comes to the top 6? And I don't know. It's a great season to watch, so absolutely brilliant.
From a neutral point of view, I think I'd be loving it, but I think I've got to disagree with you on. I think it's the opposite way around. I actually think Celtic have got the best squad, but have not got the mentality, and I think Rangers have got the mentality. You know, I think that was a huge game against Hearts at home that you went on and won, and obviously even mentality again. You know, it was a bad start against Livingston on Sunday, but you managed to come back into it, and you know, could have easily won it in the end. But I mean, Celtic haven't got that mentality, mate.
My point in there, though, right, to counteract that, I would say is Celtic would have won that game against Livingston. In that position, Celtic would have won that game 9 times out of 10, and probably won it with less shots as well. If Celtic were 2-0 down at half time and Rangers are 2-0 down at half time against Livingston, personally, I'd be saying, I think Celtic have got the mere. The last 10 minutes of that Rangers game, even though it was deep in injury time, they just didn't have that same drive. They weren't pushing the way. It's frustrating. It's difficult.
Aye, maybe, mate, but I mean, obviously Celtic yesterday, Sunday, they just showed kind of any lack of, you know, desire to win that game and stuff. I mean, missing too many chances, and I just feel that if Celtic were to sort of the mentality thing, I do believe they've got the players to go on and win it, man. But I mean, right now, as it's sitting here, mate, I think Hearts are favourites. I mean, obviously it's an easy thing to say they're toping that, but I mean, they've got everything, they've got the togetherness, they've got everybody's behind them, you know what I mean? Outside of Celtic and Rangers, everybody's behind them, they're all together and stuff, whereas Celtic and Rangers are struggling that side of things.
The 3 years, I mean, Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, you can quite safely say Hearts have just went through the season just drama-free, whereas Rangers, they're just letting all the carnage go on and grinding at results. Won the hand against Falkirk recently. I think they shot the bed a wee bit when they played Rangers. I think the crowd just got to them, the occasion got to them, but boom, strike back, 1-0 Falkirk, and teams have struggled against Falkirk.
What have you made of Danny Rose since he's come in? Obviously, it's been a big change since Russell Martin, the disaster it was that. He's made a good impact, hasn't he?
He certainly has. If you look at the league table, I've seen a picture of the league table since Danny Rose came into the new, and I think Rangers are something like 6 points in front of Hearts and 7 in front of Celtic or whatever. And to turn that round and change that, but it just seems to be every time Rangers get the door left open for them, we just slam it behind ourselves. It's like I've seen it so many times in the last 3-4 seasons, and I think that's where Danny Rowe will suffer a wee bit, because under any other setup it would be fine, but because of the Rangers fans have seen this, we've been behind Clement, we've been behind Beale, we've been behind Gio, and it just seems to fall at the wayside. And there's that element that's putting doubt in my head, but at the same time, what a great young manager, and it does show that these young coaches that are nurtured through, that never used to happen before. Ian Holloway was saying that, he said, I could never be a coach. I'm a manager. He says, I've got to be a manager of men. But these coaches, when they nurture them through, that does work. It's hard to get your head around that it's not an ex-football player or an ex-football man.
Aye, definitely. And I think the impact he's done is excellent. But, you're saying about, Rangers going forward and stuff. The thing is, there's still plenty of points to be dropped, you know what I mean, from Rangers, Celtic and Hearts. We're going to have weekends like that again, mate, you know what I mean, where, Celtic will get beat. And I wouldn't be surprised at all. I know that Aberdeen are in poor form right now, but I wouldn't be surprised or shocked in any way if Aberdeen went to Tynecastle and won on Saturday. You know what I mean? And it's like,
back to Scottish football, that would be exactly how that would work out. Playing absolutely rotten.
Exactly.
Get a result there. And there's a high chance Rangers and Celtic will probably draw, so it won't make much difference. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Well, I know, but then we both gain a point on Hearts and that. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think it's done by any means, mate. Even if Celtic get beat on Sunday, I don't think it's done. Do you know what I mean? For Celtic.
But again, going back to that, if Rangers get beat, I don't know if I'm a bit more like, that's it done. I don't know if we've had too many.
But then the following week will come and Hearts could get beat and Celtic could get beat. You know what I mean? There's still plenty of stuff to happen, man.
Aye, it's brilliant. It's been a great season for it. You can't argue with it at all. And but I say, I can't even watch some of the top leagues now because it's just too money, media, breaking news, camera angles. It's too much. See the rawness of Scottish football. It sums it up perfectly when nobody wants VAR. None of the ex-players I speak to want VAR. None of the managers want VAR. The fans didn't want VAR. But yet all the clubs are paying for VAR. And then when they have VAR, we watch it on the telly. Perfect example, that Rangers one. You could look at that right away and go, that was a free kick against Mikey Moore. It was outside the box. Contact was made before he was outside the box. 3.5 minutes later, 4 folk have watched it that are meant to be qualified. And then you've got all these pundits and all these fans coming out. How can we not work something that's madness, but it's the only country that has so much drama with VAR?
No, that's the thing. Aye, no, that's the thing. I mean, I don't think it's VAR that's the problem. It's the people running VAR. You know what I mean? I think it's a great idea to have VAR because, it helps weird teams as well. If, if you're at a bigger stadium or whatever, whether it's Celtic and Rangers in Europe or whether it's, lower teams coming to Ibrox or Parkhead, you've got a better chance of getting a correct decision if VAR's there. But the people who are running this are making a complete arse of it. You know what I mean? It's like, as you say, I mean, that Mikey Moore decision was ridiculous for me. Absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? And it's not even the fact as you say there though, it's not even the fact like the fact it was a clear foul and it was a clear red card. The fact that it took so long to get to the wrong decision. You know what I mean? It took absolutely ages, man.
And then you'll go to games and getting goals ruled out by VAR is the worst thing for a football fan. It is the worst. You're embracing, I take my daughter to football, I'm embracing it, we're celebrating, banging the way, jumping about, and then there's a VAR check and sit back down again and just forget that happened. It's terrible, man. It's so bad, I hate it. And the only 2 guests that have actually liked it are ex-referees. I spoke to Keith Hackett and John Robotham, and they said, this would be brilliant. He says it's just like driving a car without having to drive it. It's all automatic and you just sit there and watch it. Terrible, man.
Well, it certainly doesn't come across like that, does it?
No, I know.
Not at all,
And see,
man.
the thing is, I mean, you've got the VAR in the game, but do we really need it? It's a lot of money to be spending him on someone that they can't use, right? Yeah, I mean, if you imagine at your work every second day you went, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. How long would you keep getting away with that until you got sacked? But it's all jobs. There's so much corruption's not the right word, but there's so much in the agenda with certain areas of Scottish football. But it's part of it. It's part of the drama that comes with Scottish football.
Aye. I certainly think it would help if we actually gave these guys like full-time contracts and paid them properly. Do you know what I mean? And that way they can totally focus on getting decisions right and learning VAR properly. But these guys are out working all day and then having to come home at night and can learn VAR and then use it at the weekend.
That's probably why they're adding on so much time, because they're working overtime. They'll get paid to the nearest do it.
That probably is it. I know, mate. Aye. Let's go talk a wee bit about yourself, mate, being a Rangers fan and stuff. How did you become a Rangers fan? Was that through family?
Through family again, aye. And it goes back to, I mean, like how football brings us all together, and that's so good. And I was brought up with my dad taking me to my football, my uncle maybe taking me to the football, randoms for the family and friends, making connections, meeting people. And I even said that with my daughter. I said that when you go, I says, you're safe here. I says, you're in amongst a big group of folk that all look after you, and we'll all be fine, and we'll all go to the games. And that was kind of, I've been gone for, I was 10-year-old, and now my daughter, who's only a couple of years older, and I'm taking her now. And as Ace, I mean, even when I was in Madrid, I was on holiday. It wasn't in Madrid, sorry. I met a guy from Madrid. I was in Almira, and I met a guy, Spanish boy. Got talking with him. He couldn't speak in English. He was sat there with Google Translate. A year later, I went back. He'd lost his sight. And I says to his family, I says, I recognised him for last year, and I googled it and showed them. Went up and went, hi amigo, it's Barry from Scotland. Big massive cuddle and that. And the whole football, everything that comes with it, the football, how you want your team to win, you want them to play well, but see all the banter and all the emotion that comes with it. That's really what's inspired me to do this. Meet guys like yourself that I would never have met.
Exactly, mate. I'm exactly the same, man. I mean, I was watching podcasts for years, and it's like, I always want to do that. I want to know these people. I want to speak to people about football all the time. I want to communicate, and whereas I was just sitting watching all the time, wishing I'd do it, and then my situation is very similar to yours, mate. I was just like, what, fuck it one day. Just like, let's just try and figure out a way of doing this, whether it's, even if I just upload one video and we'll see how that goes. And but I'm exact same, mate. I mean, it's been the best decision I've ever made.
It's brilliant. I mean, Ken, I could be going to the pub, I could be going out and playing five. You get caught up in the views and your subscribers, but when your videos are getting watched, it's good. It's a good feeling. Folk are saying to you that maybe wouldn't know what to say to you when they bump into you at the shop. I seen your interview with such and such, and that's talking points. It's great.
I think it's important though to kind of get bogged up with subscribers and obviously try and promote it and say it. Like the bottom here, I was saying subscribe and comment and stuff. But at the end of the day, you just need to really be enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, there is no point in doing it. Like a Celtic state of mind for talking, like there's thousands of people sitting there commenting, watching and stuff about it, and he says it took to build up an audience and build up. Obviously, it's going to take a bit of time, mate. All it takes is one kind of viral hit or whatever. But
people want to watch it then, bro, but you can't watch this. It's the best. People watch it, they enjoy it, and if they didn't enjoy it, they watch it again. That was the first post I put out on Facebook on the Saturday morning when I got up. I'm going, here's my YouTube channel. If you like it, get a watch. If you don't, bump it, and that was it. If I can watch something that didn't like,
I didn't have a clue what I was doing at the start, and it took a bit of time for me to go, you know what, people are either going to watch it, they're going to watch it, whether I promote this a million times a day or whatever, do you know what I mean? So it's like, and just let it kind of, you know what I mean? And the one thing I'll say about yourself as well, mate, is you've been very supportive of us, and I've tried to be supportive of you, and that is very refreshing. There's loads of people who aren't, mate, who will not respond to you, who fellow podcasters and stuff who are no interested in thing that we've both got in common, mate.
Aye, and that's it, and that shows that we're proper fans. But I've reached out to certain podcasts, maybe podcasts for the team that used to comment all the time on a video. It was a football video, right? And it was a daily update. So it'd be on maybe once a day, and I'd comment occasionally if they were talking about a certain topic. I'd fire in, pick your comment up, I'd show the bear, and I'd say, oh, look at that wee comment and that. See, as soon as I've started doing it through my Let's Talk Football careers, you comment and they don't pick your thing up because they know what to promote you, and you're like, why would you not help each other? It's the same as that. Ken, it's a bad attitude, David. Like you say, it's refreshing to hear guys like yourself. I've certainly been able to lean on you ask you questions, and it just reassures you sometimes that, carry on, you're doing sound in that, because many folk will say, I watch your podcast, but they don't come up and say, fucking brilliant, keep doing it. So there's always that wee element of doubt in your head. But like you say, if you're enjoying it, why not,
Oh, exactly, mate. And like I say, you're doing really well. And you know, it's like you think about the, people know what to promote it and stuff, mate. See, when I seen like you're talking to like guys like Ian Holloway and John Barnes and all that, I feel genuinely happy for you. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that guy's doing brilliant, man. He's getting to talk to these people and stuff. It's obviously, I'm like, fucking, that's a belter, man. I'd love to get him on the podcast, but it's not a case of, fuck him, he's got belters, I guess, and all that. You know what I mean? You should be happy for people.
Jealous and envy, I always say that, jealousy is a horrible trait. You can be envious and pleased for somebody at the same time. You can say, I wish that was me, I'm delighted for him. And that's the difference. But it's again, you put yourself out there online, or you find when you're doing well, or you find out even through bereavements who your true pals are, who look out for you, who's got your back, who's not taking the piss at you. And and Kim, what else is refreshing? Being able to hear a wee swear word on the podcast, because my mum watches every single podcast. And things have been cut to rear for dropping in a wee S or an F.
Mate, I'm more than happy anybody to swear, as long as everybody's been respectful and stuff, mate. Swearing words are fine on here, man. But I'm the same, mate. Just be happy for people, try and help people out and stuff. And but see, going back to obviously supporting Rangers and stuff, mate, and being a big football fan, was there any kind of particular game or player when you were younger that just made you fall in love with the game?
Super Ali drew me in right away. I remember when I was watching Super Ali, I was 12, 13. I still had dreams of being able to play for Scotland and be Super Ali at that time. It's only until you get to about 14, 15, you realise I can't trap a bag of cement here. I can't control I can't do. And you say to yourself, right, well, that's when I start going to the games and you start watching them properly, and going into big stadiums, Parkhead for yourself, Celtic Park, Ibrox for myself, seeing the players actually. And then back in the day, you had VHS tapes. So you used to be able to watch there was a Super Ali video, and I'd study it and watch it like anything. And then see, what's always annoyed me is I've had a great football brain, but my body can't match it. And it's like I feel like if I could put my football brain into somebody with the talent that wasted their talent, you've seen it loads of. But Ali McCoist was always. I think then, I was very fortunate. I was growing up at middle of 9 in a row. Rangers were winning absolutely everything. It was quite an easy team to support, to be honest. If I'm fully done, it wasn't like I was getting dragged along and watching a struggle. It was all good times when I was going. Then the next generation came in. You were getting Gaza. Gaza was just. I was 17, 18. Gaza was about 5-year-old. Or maybe I don't know what age he was when he joined Rangers. And that was it. I was like, I want to be that mad cunt. I'll do that, no bother. And running about bleach blonde hair and watching Loudrup and all that. And it just hooked me right for then. I just really I realised I couldn't make it myself as a football player. I've just been so into it. I watch most games. Watching enough any game apart from the Premiership, I can't cope with it.
I'm the same. I watch pretty much anything. But my Gaza story, mate, obviously, like I say, I don't know if you've seen this on the podcast or whatever, but I've told this a few times where I grew up as a Celtic fan. All my dad's side of the family, all Celtic fans. My mum and all her side of the family are all Rangers fans. But I actually grew up directly across the road from Ibrox. I grew up in the flats. That's where I grew up, mate, right? So all my pals and all that were all Rangers fans and stuff. So the day Gaza came to Ibrox, mate, I was actually there. I was in front of Ibrox that day because they were like, oh, just come down and all that, I'll be fine, stone at the back and all this. So I was actually there that day, mate, when I remember him coming out the front fucking, and being a wee guy at the time, I think I was maybe 11 or 12 at that point, and, I didn't quite realise just how good Gaza was, do you know what I mean? I wasn't really massively... I wasn't massively knowledgeable about football at that point, and but what a player he was, mate, absolutely unbelievable. And I just remember, obviously, those years growing up across the road from Ibrox in the mid-90s, mate, was hard work for me, man, hard work.
It was just crazy. It's only new when you look back, and you can go through Celtic teams, Henrik Larsson, Moravcik, Nakamura, you can go through. You didn't actually realise how good we had it back then until you see where we are now. You imagine a Nakamura coming through with Celtic right now. What he'd be worth, how long you'd be able to keep him. It's just, we were spoiled,
This is another argument I've done, mate, that we could talk about this all night, about how football just, as much as we're doing football podcasts and we still love the game and stuff, mate, imagine we were doing it 20 years ago like this. It would have been just a phenomenal to watch, man.
Right then, brilliant. But it's great when you've got the guys that we were watching for years ago, and I've sat with. I mean, I'm a Rangers fan of this. I'll sit down with any Celtic. If anybody's willing to give me the time to come on the podcast, I'm not there to be like, oh, you're Celtic, I'm Rangers. And I sat down with Massimo Donati and sat and spoke to him about him scoring the goal against Shakhtar and everything. Brilliant, eh? And that's how it should be. Yeah, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be.
No.
My first fear, because I sent messages out. I got Vignal got back to me, Shotar Valadze, David Robertson, and then Billy Davies, and I'm like, this is becoming a bit of a Rangers podcast here, but we just checked the connections to begin with. Spoke to Warren Barton, and he said that to me at the end of it. He says it's brilliant. He says because sometimes us guys have kind of got forgotten about. He says, and we don't want to forget what we've done and forget football. He says it's not their job to say, can I come on your podcast? So they do appreciate it when you ask them, some of them as well. You catch them at the right time.
I mean, you have been very lucky because when it comes to Celtic players, mate, I think we've had a Celtic legend with Murdo McLeod on, mate. But apart from that, all the guys like I've contacted Celtic from a Celtic point of view, I've either said no or dinged me, or one of them actually, like Jackie Mack, for instance, Jackie McNamara said, aye, no bother, mate, I'll come on and all that, just get to the end of the transfer window, because obviously he's an agent now, and then I contacted him at the end of the transfer window and he ignored me, and I'm like, oh, fuck, man, that's just not going to happen here.
I had the exact same had it with Charlie Adam quite recently. You put it out, you promote it, and then they just ding you, and you're like, does it really need to be like that? You could simply just say no thanks, but it's just that's part of the graft that other folk didn't see. The writing it up, the contacting them, the editing the videos. There's so much comes to it, but again, it's enjoyable. I do enjoy doing it, but there's a lot of it. It's not just a case of sitting like this.
Nah, I know, mate, I know. David's in the chat. Super Ali, the penalty box poacher, definitely, man. What a player Super Ali was, to be fair. I mean, we're going to just go into now to Barry's 11 Scottish Rangers players in his era. I'm pretty sure Super Ali will probably be in there somewhere. But first of all, Barry, what formation are you playing?
So I've went with a 4-4-2, but I've made it quite tough because I've got two wingers that would really be left wingers, but it's my team, so they're gone in. So I went 4-4-2, two midfielders, centre mid, and a left and right winger, even though really the other one should be on their side. It doesn't make the difference.
Ah, that's fine, mate. It's your team, as you say. You're the manager, so let's go for it, mate. I think this is one of your toughest decisions, mate. Who's your goalie?
It is, because I was brought up with Andy Gorham, Scottish, brilliant, absolute. I mean, the 2-3 years that he was there was the season that we played Leeds. I think it was 1993-94 season. Even David Robertson says that. He says we had the best goalie in Europe at the time. He says it was absolutely amazing. But then you've got Alan McGregor as well, another Scottish goalie who, you know, what he done for the club, played the hell of a lot more times. You know, he's had European finals and things like that. And then another Scottish man I was going to put him, but I don't know if I'd get away with Anthony Niemi. Is he Scottish?
Nah, he's finished, mate. He's finished.
He's not finished.
He's finished, mate. He says.
So I'm going to go with Andy, man. I'm going to go with the goalie.
Go with Gorham. Nah.
The goalie was brilliant. I looked at right back, and there's a few options, right? I looked at Alan Hutton, brilliant player, left Rangers after I wasn't there as long as other options. I looked at Alec Cleland, was a brilliant signing. Walter Smith signed him for Dundee United. I'm sure we got Gary Bowen at the same time. And Cleland was so good, absolutely brilliant. He scored the goal at Parkhead, I'm sure. It was a header. But he was brilliant for Rangers. Really, just total workhorse, unsung hero. But unfortunately, I'm going to put him on the bench because I've got a right back, Bomber Brown, John Brown at right back.
Oh, right.
There, he was just Rangers through and through. I was speaking to Ian Ferguson. I'm just name dropping here, but it's just to tell stories. Ian Ferguson was telling me about that. He says he used to lie in the Rangers dressing room or at Celtic Park an hour before the team, you know, the kickoff and everything. The Rangers Celtic games, just blown into an airbag, just totally pumped up. Rangers through and through, fought for every ball. He said himself, might not have been the most gifted player, but it was just that mentality. He gave everything for the cause. And John Brown, I've put him at right back because he played there a few times.
Aye, he was a really, really good player, but I'm intrigued, mate, how far away, you've mentioned Cleland there and stuff, but how far away was James Tavernier for that?
Really far away because he's not Scottish.
Oh my God, what am I on about? What am I on about, man? Forgot my own fucking thing here.
That's because I had Niemi in the team.
That was, mate, you threw me after him, man. But, aye, okay, Bomber Brown.
What I will say is Bomber Brown, Tavernier, Cleland and Hutton in that order if Tavernier was in it. Bomber was...
So he'd be second?
aye. But
Aye.
my centre-back options, I left Dave McPherson, I left him on the bench. He was written down. Alan McCartan wrote down. He didn't make it in either, unfortunately. Two great players for Rangers. Both came for Hearts. Alan McCartan was about £1 million. Dave McPherson moved back and forth for Rangers and Hearts a lot. And two players you could really, they weren't the most gifted, but you could rely on them. They'd put their heat for folk when they put their fit. But I've had to go with Richard Gough and Davy Weir for my centre backs for my era. Two of them are brilliant. Richard Gough speaks for himself, but Davy Weir, when he came in and joined at 30, early mid 30s, thought I'll never get a season to him, and he was there for 4 or 5. He was brilliant, Davy Weir. Yeah. Really good.
It's class, definitely.
So I've went. Previous guest has made it into left back, Davy Robertson. Just the connection with him and Loudrop, and he was brilliant. Davy Robertson. He was very rarely missed a game. It was him that I was talking about that said, I was scared to leave the team because I wouldn't get back in it, and he gave everything. He was there. He was one of the players. You get players that join teams at the wrong time. He joined Rangers just at the perfect time and came through 1 night in a row, left, and brilliant player, David Robertson. So he's in there. My centre mids are going to be. I'm still debating with this yet, right? Because again, right, I've got David Cooper on my team, right? Obviously, right. David Cooper was my time, but to be honest, I've seen Mary David Cooper on. I never seen David Cooper live, just due to the age I was. But I mean, what a player David Cooper was, and you can't no put him in my team, right? But my quandary here is, does that mean then I can't put Ian Durrant in my team? Because he falls under the same category. I can mind Ian Durrant. He got injured when I was growing up. Can't mind. Never really seen him at his best. So I've kept David Cooper's obviously in the team, but my two mids I'm going to go with that I enjoyed watching the most was Ian Ferguson and Barry Ferguson. Both of them were just brilliant. Ian Ferguson, you imagine how much a player like that would cost in this day and age. Most trophies for Rangers, won absolutely everything. The mentality, he says to me, I would never go into the trophy room until I won the treble. He says, I refuse to do it. And that was just different level. And players like that, they were never injured. They fought for every ball, conducted themselves off the pitch well. It was just So they're my midfield. And my issue another wing, because I couldn't think a right winger that would specifically play in the right wing for my time that's Scottish, I could really mind. And the player that came to mind was Neil McCann. Thought he was absolutely brilliant for Rangers, Neil McCann. Got him for Hearts, I think it was, or Dundee. It was one of two. Signed him for pittance. Another signing that Rangers used to make, always had a good core of Scottish players. And Neil McCann came in, was brilliant for Rangers. I'm sure he was a Celtic supporter. He brought up a Celtic supporter and never questioned his commitment and availability, his ability. So he was classy. So on to my strikers, you mentioned Ali McAllister, they shot keys in there, top scorer, absolutely everything about him that we spoke. I've put Mo Johnston in beside him because I can remember Mo Johnston, and I know how you're looking at that. But just on the pitch at that time, when McAllister and Mo Johnston were there that season together, the pair of them, Mo Johnston was fantastic for Rangers. Everything else that came out, you just look at him as a player. The goals he scored, the ability he had. I mean, there was another player that Rangers would never be able to sign a player like that. And playing in Monaco, once a move, and Rangers nipped in and signed him. Let's say everything that came about the goals, and he kept McAllister on the bench for a wee while. I'm sure it was Mo Johnston that kept up front for a wee while. And then again, McAllister just kept the heat down. But honourable mentions go to Billy Dodds, Scott Nisbet, Gordon Dury, and Charlie Miller. And they were all ones that missed out. That again, I could go through all them great memories. Great times.
I was thinking Charlie Miller, possibly Charlie Miller. Aye.
What I was going to do, even though it's my team. Even though it's my team, given that it would have been his 70th birthday today and he's Scottish, I think I'd like Walter Smith to be the manager of that team. I think he'd be able to manage them a better than me. So that would be my team.
I think he probably would, mate. Aye. I think he'd probably do a better job. Aye, so what's that guy?
I'm still sitting here like that. I've missed somebody massively.
I was thinking maybe, obviously, I don't think you mentioned him, but maybe obviously like top goal scorer Chris Boyd. Scott, like
another option that you just, I think because he never done it that much in the Old Firm games, and he was there at a different time for Rangers. Whereas these players you'll notice the majority of these players were all coming through sort of 9 in a row time. They were my best times watching Rangers, so I think that's why there's an affinity there with the players as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. You're picked mostly a 9 in a row team there, man, ain't you? But
you wonder. that team coming up against the rest of Scottish football, how it would get on, just with all these Scotsmen. I don't think the league would be so close.
Aye. I was thinking about Kenny Miller. He maybe on a shout somewhere, or
I missed it. Aye, another one that again.
Lee McCulloch of kind of more recent times.
Lee McCulloch missed it as well. Again, you could play him up front or on the left. I need somebody on the right here. Neil McCann's cutting inside every time he gets the ball.
You know who I thought when you said the right winger thing? I was thinking the only Scottish right winger I can think of ever played for Rangers is Barry Mackay, but he's going to be anywhere near it.
And he's not squeezing in. As much as the banger, and again, at the time I think Rangers just came up. I'm sure it was Mark Warburton that was the manager. You spoke to him and all,
We spoke to Mark Warburton. He was class.
That was why I says to him, I says, I've got a question out there. I says, it's a question that I put out on the internet saying I was going to interview, and if anybody has a question, please hit me with a question and I'll ask it to Mark. So I says to Mark, I says, the question that's most popular, I says, I'm going to ask you it now. And he leans for it like that. I went, still got your magic hat? He's like, it's been just human with him and here, a wee bit banter and relaxing that.
You've got to mention it to know these guys, man. Like with Graham Murray as well, we spoke about the whole kind of the picture up in the air and the Batman sign and all that. And you know, these guys love it, man. You know what I mean? They want to be known for stuff.
Because a lot of folk, I think that's it. We're different fans interviewing players. We all ask the questions that the media they want to ask, or are a bit cautious to ask because they hate to go through agents. Whereas you can just say to them, and I say that on every single podcast. I never do them live. I'll always say to the guest, if there's anything after the podcast that you'd like me to edit out, just say it and I'll edit it out. And again, it's just gaining respect and things,
Definitely. And that's only ever happened to us once, where a guest has said, listen, can you do me a wee favour and cut that out? And that was it was actually Graham Murray, and he said something or just to do his time down at Sunderland and stuff. And I was like, of course, mate, no bother. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a big thing or anything. It was just a wee listen. I don't really want to make, because he mentions sort of like a young player and stuff, and he's like, I don't really want to put him out there and stuff like that. I know he's still a young boy, and I was like, no bother, mate. And I just cut it out.
And I think that's the difference too, Ken. It's like coming from a fan's point of view. I'm like, I'm just happy you're willing to give me your time. I'm not here to cause scandal, cause controversy, anything like that. It's just talk, and if they're sound enough to give you your time, that's again, it's all just gaining respect. And I noticed that when I reached out to Matt Otissi about 6-10 interviews ago, I could see I had the respect. I've seen your interviews and that. And I'd encourage you to get a go. And if you ever need any advice, just drop me a message. I've seeked out advice for guys like yourself and friends and family and that. And you've nothing to lose, If you enjoy it, do it.
100% agree, mate. You've got nothing to lose, and don't be scared to ask anybody for any help. The worst that anybody can do is just say no. You know what I mean? They'll not going to fucking hound you. What you did talk to me. They'll just be like, listen, I'm too busy or whatever. But most people will help you, man. Everybody I've spoke to, I think about 99% of people I've spoke to since we started this podcast, mate, has been so helpful, and you know, like gain you a bit of point on and stuff. And like we mentioned earlier on, that there's obviously rivalries and stuff like that. But see, guys who are kind of on our level and stuff, know the big massive podcasters, you know, but one day we will be there. They guys just ignore you, most of them. But you know, like that, I spoke to Big Steve, the MCFC, the other day. He's a big Man City fan. He's got a great following and stuff. One message I sent that guy, I didn't even like hound him or anything. He replied to me within 10 minutes. He's like, let's do it. When's best for you and all that. And then after that podcast, he messaged me and he's like, listen, if you ever need anybody, you know, and he started naming like big podcasters down south and stuff. And it goes back to what you mentioned earlier on, mate, about making connections and talking to people and stuff. I mean, just put yourself out there, man. And by the way, I might ask you this question as well about before we go and stuff, is about online trolls and stuff. Do you get much of that, and how do you deal with it?
Honestly, just ding it. I cannot advise it enough. I don't know whether that's a generational thing. I'm quite fortunate. I did get a lot of that, But I've always do not react to anything on social media. Just that's exactly. It's like if somebody calls you an arsehole, they're looking for a reaction. It goes back to school days. If you didn't give them a reaction, they'll pick on somebody else. I spoke to the lady. It was Jim's wife, McCalliog. And I'd done a wee bit of research. She says, I see you were on that floor in the bed with your B&B place. Worst mistake I ever made, she says, and all that. She says, I was getting trolled here there. I says, look, you've got to ignore that. I says, it doesn't matter. There's a certain, I've found, right, I mean, again, with my experience in life, I've found there's folk that'll be happy for you and genuinely happy. And there'll be folk that, I don't know, they didn't seem to have the drive and motivation to make yourself happy. So all the days is just try and bring other folk down. And the best thing you can do is just ding it. It's the best advice I'd give you there. Be
You're
yourself.
absolutely bang on, mate. Absolutely bang on. And most of these trolls online and that are faceless accounts. You know, can you imagine how sad you must be to sit in your house, right, and go, I'm going to set up an account here. I'm not going to put any profile picture on it. I'm not going to put any kind of bio on it. I'm hardly going to follow anybody. I don't care about getting follows. All I'm going on there for is to give people abuse. I'm sorry, but that is going to be one of your. I feel sorry for you, man, because if that's how sad you are, if that's how much you're hurting, that you need to do that. I mean, I wouldn't even think about doing something like that.
Can you not just folk just be happy for you or find happiness in what gives you joy? And it's the same, this gives me a lot of joy. But there'll be folk that think it's fucking absolutely mental, but it doesn't to say to you, that's shite, you're not enjoying it. They'll just say, well, it's not my kind of thing. My best mate's the exact same. He says, I'm totally behind everything you do, but I'll not watch a podcast. I like podcasts. He says, but you ever need any advice, you reach out to me. And then there's other folk that like to say, all they want to do is hide behind faceless accounts, give you abuse. Find something that makes you happy, man. Life's too short, eh?
Absolutely. Again, mate, absolutely bang on. I've got 3 very close pals who I talk to every single day in WhatsApp group chat. None of them ever want to talk about the podcast because they don't watch podcasts. It's not as if they're not being supportive or they just don't watch them and they listen. I wish you all the best or that, but I don't watch podcasts. You know what I mean? And it's just you do need to be dicks.
It's like somebody saying to me, "Oh, there's EastEnders or Corrie or whatever's on. Watch that. It's amazing. You should watch it. You should watch it." If I didn't want to watch it, I didn't think to myself, "What the fuck are they watching that for? That's terrible." I just spend it. It's like, good. That's making you happy. This is making me happy. But no, exactly. Just didn't bite. Do not bite to the bait. I've been fortunate. I've not had a lot yet. But if I did, you'd be wasting your time because I wouldn't reply yet.
Same here, mate. David says, I'm a Celtic supporter, but Ian Durrant was some talent. He was mesmeric running with the ball. It's a tragedy that horrible injury ended his career. It is, mate. You know what I mean? Because he could have been on to kind of... Obviously, he did have a great career and stuff like that, but it was cut far too short with that ridiculous challenge at Pittodrie, man.
And I can't mind off the top of my head who it was that I spoke to, ex-Rangers player, but he said that, he says, Ian Durrant was that good. He adapted his game to go away his injury. He says if he hadn't got that injury, he says the levels he could have went on to. Again, I just missed the boat a wee bit with my age. I got injured around about the same time as I was really starting to take it on. But I even seen him, I went on to play. I'm sure it went down to Everton, did you know, with Duncan Ferguson at the time. Came back up, but another player that, again, that wouldn't happen in this day and age. Players like that wouldn't slip through the net, and that's why players are out in Italy now, and you've got your McTominays, and you could rattle off loads of different names, but players that got injured like Ian Durrant, and even Terry Butcher to an extent picked up a bad injury as well. They're better placed now to get that injury dealt with properly, fixed properly, and come back the same player you were. But there's so many players like that lost their careers just due to one horrendous tackle, and it's a shame.
Definitely, mate. Right, we'll call it a day there, guys. Barry, thanks very much for coming on, mate. Like I said a few times in that podcast, wish you nothing but success, mate. If you ever need anything for us, you know where we are. All the best, mate. Keep smashing it, brother. All right. Thanks very much for coming on, mate.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and just to sit and talk with some of your subscribers and your viewers on that too, and make connections with football, man. That's what it's all about, Jamie. Thanks very much, man.
No bother, mate. All the best, pal. Thank you very much.
Cheers.